Maryland taxpayers have paid $219 million to educate 11,000 students that are not actually in public schools. So we're going to get into the story, and let me know what you guys think in the comments about this, and I'll get my take on it.
Tonight, a stunning finding by our Project Baltimore team.
Chris Papps has learned taxpayers in 2024 gave Maryland Public Schools hundreds of millions of dollars to educate students whose whereabouts were unknown.
Maryland Public Schools, right now, are busy. Not just educating students, but counting them. In Maryland, most of the school's funding is based on the number of students enrolled on September 30th. The students counted on that one day largely determines the school's funding the following year. But a Project Baltimore investigation is raising serious questions about that process. We've learned in 2024.
All right, I gotta stop this a little early, because how much sense does it make? And these are supposed to be the educated people of our society. How much sense does it make to calculate next year's budget on the students who started in the school? How much sense does that make? How does that is the people that's in school the first month, at the end of the first month, an indication of how many students you are projecting to have next year? You have people. These are scenarios that could happen and do happen throughout the year. So you're going to have people leave. You're going to have people drop out. You're going to have new people come from other schools, possibly other states. So by the end of the year is when it's probably the most important time to see how many students you have, to get a better inclination of who'll be there. If I wasn't there from May to June, I probably won't be there in September. You know? If I got to the school, if I didn't get to the school and I moved from another district or another city or state, and I didn't get there till January, and I went from January to June, I'll probably be there in September. Does this make sense to anybody? Am I crazy? Am I slow? This is the educated people of our society that make the rules that we're supposed to trust. This is why I don't trust nothing.
Taxpayers gave hundreds of millions of dollars to schools to educate students who could not be found.
This is very concerning.
State Delegate Kathy Schlager represents Baltimore County. She's also a former public school teacher.
We need to do something to stop this problem.
In total, in 2024, more than 891,000 Maryland students were counted on September 30th. Throughout the year, according to the Maryland State Department of Education, about 14,500 students unenrolled in grades 7 through 12. The documented reasons students unenrolled range from illness to employment, but the biggest category by far is whereabouts unknown. Look at that number. Nearly 11,000 students were unenrolled because the school could not find them. But since the students were enrolled on paper on September 30th, the schools received your money to educate them for the entire year.
They don't even know where these kids are. Are they safe? Are there safety risks for these kids? Is it fraud?
According to state data, Maryland schools in 2024 received nearly $20,000 per student, meaning local and state taxpayers gave public schools statewide around $219 million in just 1 year to educate students whose whereabouts were unknown. And that amount?
219. Let's really quick, because I'm not sure if they. I think I know, but I just want to double check to make sure I'm correct about. So we got 20,000 a kid times 11,000 roughly. So that's just the amount for the kids. So the school system receives in the billions of dollars. So because if that's only 219 million, it received in the billions of dollars. So this is an extra 219 million dollars that they have received. So for extra 219 million dollars, I'm leaning towards fraud. So you have neglect, idiocy, you have dereliction of duty, you have all of that over here. Over here we have fraud. I'm leaning towards some dereliction of duty, some terrible bad bookkeeping, but I think there should be an investigation into fraud. Are these even are they even sure that these are real students, or are these just names that were written down and I don't know, fake illegals? I don't know what they have here, but that's a lot of money. And when you get into numbers like this, fraud needs to be investigated, but unfortunately it will not be investigated because that's just not how things work in this country. When you have, if you do some fraud, the feds will be at your door, but you get some of these departments in the state and federal government and nobody's held accountable for when $219 million comes up missing because you're not using the money because you're not educating them, but you don't give the money back. So where's the money going? Where is the 219? You don't just lose $219 million. That's not like a rounding error. That's an actual amount. That's a big amount of money. You would notice that. That would definitely come up. Hey, you know what? We had a $219 million surplus.
does not include federal funding.
It's unacceptable for taxpayers' money.
Doesn't include federal funding.
Students that are knowingly not in the school system.
Funding missing students in Maryland is not a new problem. Project Baltimore first reported on the issue in 2021. But it is a problem that's getting much worse. In 2019, 6 years ago, the state reported just about 6,100 students whose whereabouts were unknown. Every year since, the number has increased.
So this leads me more towards fraud. I was already on fraud. I was already ready to launch an investigation. This leads me even more towards fraud because you start off with 6,000, then you go up to 7,000 because you're making a lot of money here. In my scenario, you're making a lot of money here, so you're making maybe $100 million or $90 million in 2019. They don't even have the numbers. Well, 2020 was COVID, so a lot of schools canceled. Really hurt their pockets on that one. So they said, we're going to get some get back in 2021. So it went up to 7,200 students. So they got more money there. In 2022, more and more and more. And the numbers just growing and growing and growing and growing. That's what happens a lot of the time with fraud, is that you start low and then you end up, you're like, oh, I didn't get caught. I can do more. I can do more. I can do more. And next thing you know, it's $219 million missing, to $219 million being stolen from taxpayers. Are they going to get that money back? No. No. There's no recourse. You can't sue. You can't. There won't be a rebate. There won't be anything. Their property taxes won't be lowered. Nothing. And that's the fucked up thing about this government. But let's go.
Why are they continuing to increase the number of students they're putting in the category of whereabouts unknown to receive funding for students that clearly do not attend school?
Following our reporting on missing students in 2021, Carroll County Delegate April Rose introduced legislation to count students 4 times a year to increase accuracy. Opponents, such as the teachers union, said the bill overcomplicates a data snapshot that is intended to ensure adequate funding for schools.
So basically what they're saying is it's going to overcomplicate things to do accounting on the amount of people that are in the school, because it'll make it harder to know how much funding to get. Actually, you should really be doing it every month, not even just 4 times a year, every month. You should be keeping track of how many students you're losing, why you're losing them, what is happening. That's another way to kind of improve the attendance in school, to know that people are leaving, how many people are leaving, why they are leaving. When people leave jobs, sometimes they do exit interviews. They want to know why people keep leaving this company. Anything you want to do, you get as much information as possible so that you can fix the problem. It's a problem if these are even real kids. I don't know if all of them are real, but let's just say they're real. You want to know why you have 10, what's that number? So out of 890, that's over 10%, I want to say. So no. About 2%. You want to know about why about 1.5% of your kids are dropping out of school or not attending school. It's kind of important. You want to do as much as you can for the youth of America. It's not that hard. It's what you kind of signed up for.
There needs to be some course correction. Last year, the Maryland General Assembly passed the largest tax increases in the history of our state. And we're being told this is for education.
After speaking with Project Baltimore, Shaleka sent these letters to Rick Henry, the Maryland Inspector General for Education, and Maryland Representative Andy Harris, requesting state and federal investigations into the funding of students who cannot be located. We'll keep you posted on any response. The data tell us the number of students whose whereabouts unknown has drastically increased. But why is this happening? And should taxpayers continue to pay to educate students who cannot be found?
That's obviously a question that's made in jest, because obviously you should not be, and there should be some type of rebate or some type of money given back. They should be forced to give the money back. All the money that they've stolen over the last, 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021, 2019, at least the last 5 out of 6 years. And if this is still going on this year, then that'll make 6 out of 7, the 7 last years, because they didn't even give the numbers before 2019. So who knows what those numbers are. But anyway, what do you think about the situation? How do you feel about the government? Do you think that anybody's going to be made whole, or they're going to get any money back, any type of what do you call them when you civil money back, or is everybody just out of luck? Will they keep continuing to force people to educate ghosts? Probably. Anyway, please like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm Gary from fitnessfirstnutrition.com, and I'll see you next video.